So this is a manifestation guide for you so that you can manifest whatever goal it is that you have in your life. I said whatever goal you have in your life. I did not say, okay, it works for this, this, and this, but not for this. No, this is a manifestation guide that you can utilize no matter which goal you have. And I want to guide you through this journey. I want to guide you through all these different stages. I want to explain to you what every stage means. I also highlighted 2 stages in green, as you can see here. And these will be the stages where you come into play. The other stages, they don't really have much to do with you or what you should focus on. So I want to explain every stage. I want to explain to you how to apply it. So follow this guide, stay with me, grab something to drink, grab something to eat, and then come to this video, enjoy it, watch it fully, and then simply apply this manifestation guide. This is very practical. I did these guides already on my YouTube channel, but right now I want to do just like an updated version with maybe some more examples and all of that. So let us just dive right in. Now, first of all, we need to cover the fundamental principles, because this manifestation guide will only make sense when we come from these fundamental principles, when you've understood them. And again, I have a program, right? I don't want to already start with any advertisement right now in the video, but just for you to know, in order for you to understand these fundamental principles and not always like seek the next technique and the next external approach, such a program can obviously be very helpful. You can find that in the video description, pinned comments, right? But I will also explain these principles in a summarized way here. So the first fundamental principle is that creation is finished. Every possible state exists now. So if creation is finished, how you can simply imagine that is that whatever you can desire, whatever you can imagine does exist, and even more beyond that. But to keep it simple, whatever you can imagine, whatever you can desire is in existence. Whatever desire you have is a state that's right now not tangible for your senses, but it is a reality, it is a possibility, it is a portion of creation that's unmanifested, but you can tune into it, you can imagine it, you can feel into it, you can sense it, you can have the desire for that. So it means it is there, right? Every possible state exists, every possible version of you exists here and now within consciousness, within creation. So if you want to learn more on that, then check out my channel. I have more videos on creation is finished, but that is one principle, and this will be very important when it then comes to shifting into the reality, into the state that we want to shift in. So you have to understand that, of course, that's possible because that state does exist when you really understand this topic of creation is finished. And what this also leads to is understanding that there is no lack. There can never be any lack. There is no lack. Lack is a man-made belief, but there is no lack. If creation is finished, how could there ever be lack? Right? Your belief in lack might be real, but that's a belief in lack. But there is, in actuality, in consciousness, there is no lack because everything does exist. So the second principle, the second fundamental understanding that you need to have is that consciousness is the only reality. You are where you dwell within your inner reality, right? Consciousness is the only reality, not the external appearances, not the external 3D current world. Yes, that's also in a sense a real experience, but it is never final. Only wherever you dwell within right now, that is where you actually are. So you can sit right now in your room, but you can in your inner world dwell on being here, being on the beach, talking to this person, experiencing this, having this. Your bank account could show you the red numbers, but in your inner world, you could dwell on financial abundance. And that is where you dwell. And you can understand that this is real, that this is true, because you will see that your reactions will change. So if this was not be true and the external circumstances would be all that there is, then you would always react, obviously, as the circumstances indicate to you. But once you see this principle and you see that once you shift into a new state within that, then also your reactions to the current circumstances change, that means that wherever you are within, that is actually real, because that is also where your reactions come from, right? Consciousness, your inner reality, imagination, awareness, your inner space, your inner realm, that is real. Where you dwell within there, how you feel there, that is how you feel, right? That is what your truth is. And that is reflected, which is in the sense, another fundamental is that life reflects back your internal state. So imagining creates reality. That is another principle, right? Imagining creates reality. What does that mean translated? Imagining creates reality. It sounds so non-graspable. What does it mean? It means placing your awareness on the desired state, on the desired reality, on the desired version of yourself, leads to the manifestation of that portion of creation. That's what it means. But when we imagine something, imagining is basically consciousness, which includes every possibility, in motion. So imagination is we're taking our focus away of what right now is, and we're tuning into a state into a reality, into a portion of creation that's not manifested yet. That is what we coined imagination. That is what we gave the word imagination to. It's experiencing things that are unseen for the senses, so to speak, right? Placing our awareness on something that is not manifested, right? On another portion of creation. But what this leads to is that when we activate it, therefore, and the more we dwell on it, the more we make it certain, the more we identify with it, we activate it, and then that is going to be reflected. So it creates reality, right? Imagining creates reality. Us putting our awareness on a new state, making it alive, is then what we see our world reflect back. So we have an immense power. And two other principles are that assumptions harden into fact, right? You assume a state and it externalizes, like I explained earlier, and that your state self-concept externalizes in your circumstances. So basically nearly the same, right? But these are the principles that we first need to understand. This is the premise from which we need to come so that this manifestation guide right now makes sense. Now, let's talk about the different stages, okay? So it all starts with a desire, then there is the shift, the feeling of naturalness, persistency, then the bridge of incidents, and a manifestation, right? So what we see here, what is before this mirror line, what is before that all happens within you. Everything that happens after that mirror line happens, in a sense, in the circumstance, or you can already see the first results, happens outside of you. And the green highlighted parts, that is what you should focus on. Okay, that is where you should put your attention to. That is where it's required that you do inner movement. That is what it's required where you maneuver consciously, where you do a shift. But the rest happens. So let's talk about those stages. Now, a desire, a goal, that is coming up in you, right? That is a state that you desire to manifest. It is arising in you, and we know by now, since we know all the principles, we know that this is a state that exists. We can only desire something that also wants us, right? We can only desire something that wants to be expressed through us, and that is therefore possible to be expressed because this state does exist, right? And in these next slides that I'm going to share with you, I also will explain basically with Neville quotes how he explained these stages, okay? So first stage is a desire, a goal that's given to you, and you can't work this out. I mean, you wake up one day, you go through life, and then you feel, oh, I want this. You start to become triggered by circumstances, then a desire develops. So this is not really something you can work out. You either want things or you don't want things, right? Desires are given to you. They're opportunities to grow. So when you have desires, it's amazing, right? You can be thankful because that means that this is now possible for you. It is within your reach, so to speak, right? It is already in existence, in awareness, right? But now it becomes interesting. So now that you have this desire, now that you want to be this new version of yourself, you want to elevate yourself, now that you want to have these new circumstances, now that you want to manifest this thing in your outside circumstances, what's the next stage? The next stage is the shift. So what do we do in the shift? Right? In the shift, it is required for you to shift into the state where this is no longer a desire, where you no longer want this, keep hoping for, keep waiting for, no, but where this is right now in effect, a truth. You're in the wish fulfilled, right? We shift in a state of the wish fulfilled. That's why Neville always said, the wish fulfilled state, the wish fulfilled state. But if you only let this be a state, then that's only possibility. But when you really shift into it, then you make it your inner reality. Then you accept that as true for you. So what we do is that we become aware, we become conscious of already having achieved the desire by imagining it, right? I will also tell you how to do this shift. The core way to do this shift is by imagining a scene, by imagining an act, right? By experiencing an act. Imagining doesn't mean visualizing. Imagining means an inner experience. That can be through visualization, that can be hearing, that can be touching something, right? Imagination encompasses all senses, it includes all senses. So you experience something. That implies to you that your desire is done. Example, I recently uploaded a video on how I manifested a car. The example here would be, the desire is having the car. Desire is driving this car, right? Owning this car. The shift would be shifting into the reality, into the state where you have this car, because that does exist. Right? We are not creating. We're simply giving our attention, our awareness to what already is, and then that is projected out. That is manifested. Right? That is what our world mirrors back. Imagining creates reality. So then I would imagine a scene that implies that I have this car, right? Me feeling the car keys, me touching the car keys. That implies to me I have it. And then a little forecast of what we're going to talk about in a second. By me, starting to imagine that more and more, it starts to feel natural. An inner conviction starts to grow, right? I start to have faith in that desired state. And then should I lose that? Should I desire it again? Should I feel seemingly lack again? I persist in that shift again, and I maneuver back in the wish fulfilled state. I make it natural again, right? And then a bridge of incidents starts to happen, and then I manifest the goal. And that is exactly what happened. This is a perfect example. On this video, you'll find it on my YouTube channel. I uploaded it a couple of days ago, where you can see that this manifestation guide works perfect. So coming back to this stage 2, right, this shift, we can apply any method that resonates with us so that we can identify with the desired state. The goal is that we identify with being who we want to be, having what we want to have through this inner movement, through this inner shift, this inner realignment, right? So this is what Neville had to say. I know of no clearer definition of the means by which we realize our desires than to experience in imagination, in your inner world, what we would experience in the flesh were we to achieve our goal. What would imply you have a car? What would you experience in the world if you would have the car? You would touch the key, in my example, right? In this example, in this manifestation success story example. So, and Neville said, right, he knows of no clearer definition than to experience something that implies that your wish is fulfilled. So when you go in your imagination, make sure that you actually are performing the action, hearing the words, touching the object, which is what I did. I touched the car key, or smelling the aroma in your self-conceived drama, in the scene that you came up with. What you do in imagination is not merely daydreaming, which you see events in your mind's eye. You must enter the dream as if you were actually there. You must make then, now, and there here. So you must really imagine it and devote yourself to this experience right now. Not just think of it or daydream about it. No, experience it as though it would happen right now, because it is happening right now. You're tuning into that reality where it does exist via that imaginative act that implies it to you. So you must know and define your objective. What do you want? That's the first step, right? What's your desire? That is what you saw, what this manifestation guide starts with. Right? What do you want? What's your desire? What right now excites you the most? What do you want to change? What do you want to have in your life? Then we can start this whole process, so to speak. So when you know what you want, then condense it into a sensation which implies fulfillment. Touching the car key, feeling this, hearing this congratulations, seeing this, encountering this, doing this activity, saying this to yourself, saying this to someone, what implies it is done. When your desire is clearly defined, immobilize the physical body, relax, go in a relaxed state, right? Give your thoughts away, relax, calm down, and then experience in your imagination the action which implies the fulfillment. Repeat this act over and over again. You can experience your heart's desire through the use of your imagination. Nothing is impossible to your imagination. You can imagine, your imagination is unlimited in what it can accomplish. You can imagine something, and then you can also achieve it, right? If you can imagine something, then you can achieve it. If you can imagine something, it does exist. But it being in existence does not mean that you have accepted it's true for you, right? So you have to start to accept that it's true for you. You have to start to identify with it. You have to start to know that, okay, yes, this is who I am. This is what I have by shifting in it. Via, for example, a scene that implies you have it. And yes, there are other techniques, right? Yes, you don't have to imagine a scene. This is a tool that anchors you in that reality. There's also other techniques which you find throughout my channel, but that's one of the core way, right? One of Neville's main teachings. If you read all his books, read all his lectures, this is the one that he mentions most. This is the one that, is most often used in his teachings, because that's the most accurate one, so to speak. The way to use your imagination creatively is this: relax in a chair or on a bed and close your eyes. Determine what it is you wish to experience. Then, in this state of complete relaxation, bring to your mind the end result of what you desire. So this is the shift, right? Applying a method, imagining a scene that implies it is done. Applying a manifestation technique that anchors you in the state where you now feel the relief, the knowingness, and this is now bringing us to step 2, where the naturalness starts to set in, right? The feeling of naturalness. And as you can see here, this is not your job to focus on or to force. Your job is to do the shift, so to speak. And by you dwelling in the desire state more, it's as a result, it will become more natural. So you can't just snip and say, okay, now it's natural. This is not your job to focus on. This is your job to focus on, and we will also talk later about this topic of persistency. But once you make it natural, once you shift into this state more and more, once you align with that desired reality more and more, it will become more natural, therefore, as a result of you dwelling in that state, right? So this is what Neville said. the time it takes your assumption to become a fact, your desire to be fulfilled, is directly proportionate to the naturalness of your feeling of already having what you want to be, of already being who you want to be, right? The fact that it does not feel natural to you to be what you imagine yourself to be is the secret of failure. So let that sink in, right? If it does not feel natural, then you feel like I'm not having it. I am not it. It feels unnatural. But your world, the mirror, and we're also going to talk about that, can only give you what you already are, what you are already identified with. So if something is unnatural and you seek for it, you hope for it, you try to make it happen, you look for it, that implies that it's not done yet, that you're not it yet, that you're not having it yet. So therefore the world can't confirm it. In my example with the car key, I imagined feeling it to the point where it became boring, where I was convinced, where it was natural to me, right? I no longer wanted it. The wish was fulfilled in me. And this is something that is a key thing, right? You see that the wish fulfillment, you shifting into the state where you have it, that is all happening in you. The mirror then shows you what already is. So you see, the wish fulfillment does not happen over there. The wish fulfillment happens in your inner world. So regardless of your desire, regardless of how faithfully and intelligently you follow the law, if you do not feel natural about what you want to be, you will not be it, right? And if it does not feel natural for you to get a better job, you will not get a better job. So you have to be in the naturalness, in the knowingness that you already received the better job, that it already happened. It's normal, it's obvious, it's certain to you, right? You expect it, you anticipate it, it's done. So how can this feeling of naturalness be achieved, right? How can we achieve naturalness? And Neville is explaining it here via imagination, via shifting in the state where we have it, right? By filling our internal world with it, it starts to feel natural as a result, right? So this is clearly pointed out here. This feeling of naturalness can be achieved by imagination. So it's a result of us shifting in the desired reality. So for example, let's just say you would be chained to a large, heavy bench. Okay, you would be chained on your ankle to a bench. You could not run. Okay, so because you're in your sense world in the 3D, you're chained, you could not run. In fact, you could not even walk. In these circumstances, it would be unnatural for you to run. You could not even feel that it was natural for you to run, but you could easily imagine yourself running. So although in your 3D world, the things show you the opposite, things are not the way you want them to be, in your inner world, you can still create a naturalness for something, although the facts do not, agree with that yet. They do not conform to it yet. So in that instant, while your consciousness is filled with you imagining yourself running, you've forgotten that you are bound. So you're making it so natural for you within yourself, in that example that you're running, that the current facts will become irrelevant. Yes, you will still have them. You're not becoming delusional. The 3D is still as it is, but it does no longer feel natural. It does no longer feel like you. It starts to become unnatural. You have disidentified with it, but because you've identified right now with this new unseen state and made that natural, the essential feeling of naturalness can be achieved by persistently filling your consciousness, your inner space, your inner realm, your inner reality, your mind, right, your inner world, with imagination, imagining yourself being what you want to be, having what you want to have, right? So, summarize, a little recap. We have a desire, right? This desire is arising within us. We know it does exist. We know because we can desire this, there is also the wish fulfilled also does exist. Otherwise, we could not even desire it, right? What we can desire, that's a state that's there. Now, we start to shift in that state. Right? We start to identify with that state within. We start to make it alive in us. How do we do that? Key way is that you imagine a scene that implies that you already achieved your desire. Who would congratulate you? What would happen? Right? What would change in your life that right now you can't do? What would imply to you, if you ask yourself, if my desire would be fulfilled, what would change in my life? If I speak to this person, what would they say? What would I say to myself? How would I wake up differently? What would I do differently? What would imply it's done? By us imagining that, we start to persuade ourselves. We start to fill up our inner world more and more, and a little bit 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 more. Sometimes this can take days, weeks, sometimes it can take months, and you come back to this scene. This is what we're going to talk about with persistency in a second. But the more you start to dwell in it, the more you really start to make it alive in you. This conviction grows, this naturalness grows, right? Because you've filled up your inner world with that state of the wish fulfilled. And then the next point is coming into play, which is persistency, which is again where you are asked to do something in a sense, right? Because if we notice that we've fallen out of the desired state, which might happen, it happened also to Neville when he had his first conscious manifestation where he wanted to go to Barbados. He doubted that all the time. He worried all the time. He all the time went to his mentor and said, oh my God, nothing has moved yet. There is no movement. Nothing is changing. So it's okay to fall out of your state. It's okay to fall out of your desired reality. It's okay to have doubts. The question is only once you noticed that you spiraled, once you notice that you perceive the lack again, once you notice that your desire is not there, then you desire it strongly again. Once you notice that you reacted in a certain way, that it's not in alignment with your end state, the question is, what do you do then? Do you then keep spiraling and being sucked back into the old state of not having it? Or do you use this and gently maneuver back in the wish-fulfilled state? Let me say it again. You gently maneuver back. You persistently, gently maneuver back in the wish-fulfilled state. You anchor yourself again in the desired end state, but not by just telling yourself, oh yeah, it's done. So let's just say you have the desire. You start to imagine. It feels natural. 2 days later, you have the desire again. Then I would not recommend that you just tell yourself, oh yeah, it's done. Okay, that's it. I would imagine you again experience it being done, to anchor yourself fully and deeply through that inner experience in the wish-fulfilled state again. So if we notice that we've fallen out of the desire state, we go back in the inner experience. That leads to a satisfaction again. We satisfy the hunger again, right? We feel the relief again. And then we have translated desiring it into being it again. And this is no hard work or suffering. I really wanted to point this out, right? Persistency, which sometimes sounds like, work more for your manifestation, do a lot of techniques, do a lot of manifestation tools and approaches. No, persistency is easy. When you notice that when a desire is coming up, you can easily fulfill it within yourself by asking yourself, how would I see the world if it would be done? What would I experience? What would happen to me? What would imply design? And you then invest 5 minutes, 10 minutes to imagine that again. That is joy, right? That is ease, because you encounter the wish fulfillment in yourself again. And that's the key point right now, right? The wish fulfilled, the wish fulfillment, you shifting into the state of the wish fulfilled and encountering the wish fulfilled is happening in you. What happens then after that, which is what we're going to talk about next, which is the mirror starting to, we're seeing first changes and then the manifestation. That's the consequence of the wish fulfilled. The manifestation, everything that happens after that, is the consequence of the wish fulfilled. The manifestation, you seeing your goal in your sense world, is the consequence of the wish fulfilled. So that means you can never wait for something. You can never hope for something. If you want it, encounter the wish fulfilled in yourself. That is where it is done. And then you no longer desire it, then you no longer search for signs to try to make it happen, because it is done for you. And then the mirror simply can reflect back what already is alive in you. Key point. Okay? So the next stage is bridge of incidents, and that's also orange. That's also not where your focus should lie. Your focus should lie on making the inner movement, and in a sense persisting in that inner movement. Should you have dropped out of it, should you desire it strongly again, then you maneuver back. That is where your only focus is. Everything else happens automatically, happens as a result. Because you can't force up a goal or a desire that's just coming automatically depending on which states you are right now. You have certain desires. You can shift into the state where it's no longer desire, where it's fulfilled. By you shifting in that state, it will start to become natural, so you can't force it. It happens automatically. You persist in making that, in that shift. But then the bridge and also manifestation all happens automatically once you entered internally your desired reality. So the bridge of incidents, right? I do not lift the finger. You do not work out a way. My ways are higher than yours. Your imagination's ways, your God's ways, your higher self's ways, consciousness ways are higher than yours. If you want this better job, it's not that you first need to work out this way. If you want that relationship, it's not that you need to ask, okay, how do I get it? You could right now, through your imagination, go in that reality where you do have it and be in the wish fulfilled, so that it becomes even irrelevant for you to work out any ways and to wonder how you get it, because it is already achieved for you. So what does that mean in more detail? Well, let's talk about that. So I do not assume the responsibility for making anything so after I have identified myself with the state that I desire. I let it be so. It might take a day, a week, a month, maybe several months, maybe even a year or 2 years. But again, the ironic thing is that while you are in your desired state, you no longer care about the time. You no longer wait. You no longer hope. You no longer perceive a time crunch or time gap, because you are now in the wish fulfilled. So I see what I want to see, and then I let it be true. I do not lift a finger to make it true. For how can I discuss it when it is already so? And this is what gets misunderstood, misinterpreted from many people, right? What Neville is meaning when he's saying, I do not lift a finger, it means that when you have the desire, then it doesn't mean that you, again, work out a way and worry, oh my God, what are the steps? Right? You go to the end, and then whatever action will be required, if it is required from you to move and to go somewhere, to do things, to act a certain way, then it will be required, and probably it will be. Usually there is action also from your side that will be needed to express a state. But that is an action that will then automatically come from the end state that you shifted into. All right? Go on my channel after this video if this point is tripping you up. Okay? If this point on the unfolding, the bridge, the inspired action, should you take action or not, if that's tripping you up, go on my channel and type in, just type in on YouTube, upgrade your life, inspired action. Upgrade your life, should I take action? I did various videos on this topic to explain this in more detail. So if action is required, it will happen automatically from the new reality. That summarized it, right? You're not lifting a finger and working out a way. You let the ways come automatically, but when you focus on the things that are highlighted in green, which is nurturing that desired reality, and then whatever action is needed will flow automatically from this state, right? Because if it already is so, then if you right now imagine your wish being fulfilled, imagine your friend congratulating you, your mom, your dad, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, you experience something that implies that it is done, for example, then in that moment, how could you wonder what to do to get it? It is done for you. So you see, the more you know that it's done for you, the less and less and less will you have the need to work out a way. Whenever you have imagined yourself as you want to be and you have felt the thrill of it, the outer being has to move through all these states to fulfill it. So you basically place the inner you, right? The inner you, imaginatively, you place yourself in the wish fulfilled state, okay? And then the outer you, in your sense world, whatever you are needed to do to express that internal state that you're internally living in, you will do it automatically. You will do these actions without even thinking about them. They will come so subconsciously, unwittingly, you will just move and do things, and then you end up with your manifestation. And you moved across that bridge, right? So do not be concerned with the how. The how should be something that you should not worry about, because the how is irrelevant while you live in the wish fulfilled state. Only when you see your desire as separate and you wait for it, you hope for it, you see it as something that's over here, and you're thinking of it, you're seeing that it's not there yet, then you worry, how do I get there? Once you put yourself imaginatively again in the wish fulfilled state and see the world again from the wish fulfilled by imagining a scene that implies it is done, and you're again anchoring yourself in that end state, the how becomes irrelevant because it is already achieved for you. And then the how happens automatically, right? So do not be concerned with the how. You have assumed that it is done. That assumption has its own way of objectifying itself. All responsibility to make it so is removed from you, like I explained before. So now we are basically at the end finally, which is then the manifestation sets in, which, what I said earlier, right? The manifestation is then the consequence of the wish fulfilled. So the wish is already fulfilled. The wish starts to already be fulfilled. It already is natural. Then it follows. It's a consequence, right? Your world mirrors then back what you encountered, made alive, awakened, shifted into in yourself. So therefore you should imagine, for the sake of encountering the wish fulfilled, not to make something happen. Because when you imagine, right, when you do inner work to make something happen, look at this illustration. This is within. When within you do things to make it happen, that means that you're in a state where it hasn't happened yet, where it's not done for you yet. So what should the mirror reflect back? It can't reflect back the wish fulfilled. But it can't manifest it because it's not done for you within. So you have to only imagine within for the sake of being it within. Right? Tune your awareness in the state where you have what you want to have. Shift your reality by imagining yourself into the wish fulfilled state. Okay? And then the manifestation simply follows. And then you have new desires. And then this whole thing can start again. Right? To the next desire, to the next stage. And you can rise. And then you see this dynamic game of life. And never hyper-focus on one desire. Never put your life on hold. I have many mistakes that I see that people do when they manifest a goal. So this is a comprehensive guide for you to step-by-step manifest a desire. Focus on these 2 steps. And that is it for this video. So, first of all, let me know in the comments down below definitely if you like that, how you enjoyed that, what do you think of that? Your experience with that, maybe your successes with that, your questions on that. Put this all in the comments down below. I will definitely read that. And also, now this is a in a sense, a very, very, very tiny snippet also from like things that I teach in my program. So if you want more on that, because there's way more to that, right? Because obviously people then have emotions coming up and fears and doubts and worries, and people don't know really how to apply the techniques. They're not able to come up with a technique, with a scene that implies the end. They're not able to integrate this in their life. Maybe they manifest one thing, but then they fall back. So there's so much more that you can really make this a lifestyle, that you can really apply this, you can really, you can really do to make sure that you manifest your desire that you have right now. If you want help with that, then check out the 2 links. One is my free masterclass and one is my program. So in my program, I can help you in a personal way to really apply this, to keep you accountable, right? To remind you on these things. There are calls with me. There's a private community. There's a structured system. So if that is relevant for you, then check out my program. And that is it for this video. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye, guys.